This video contains content that viewers may find disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
And welcome back to 100 Horrible Ways People Can Die. I'm John.
And I'm Alex. Today's episode is about being trampled.
Okay,
That's all I got
so
there.
where we'll investigate terrifying ways in which people have been killed by being trampled.
Yes, but before we start, do you know which story we told you last week was complete and utter crap?
If you said the Binghamton University retaining wall collapse, ding, 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 you are correct. Congratulations, you're the winners.
And what do they win?
Nothing. We don't have any money or listeners, so this is really just for us. So.
And even if we did have money and listeners, we still wouldn't give you anything.
But this is our 4th episode, and we still only have 2 people listening to this thing. If we're lucky.
Well, could be worse.
One of them's probably my mom.
And one of them is definitely not my mom, because I don't want her knowing I do this.
Oh, jeez. It is kind of embarrassing when you watch yourself and listen to yourself on there sometimes. But...
Yes, it is.
All right, so trampling can happen where large groups of people gathered. What? I read that completely wrong. Let's get on to our first historical event.
Sure. Why waste time?
Let's just move on.
Yeah.
And our first one I think we're going to go into is the Hillsborough disaster.
So the Hillsborough disaster. On April 15th, 1989, there was a tragic trampling event at the Hillsborough Stadium in Sheffield, England. We do really seem to do a lot of stories about England, don't we?
Yep, and this one was during the FA Cup semi-final match between Liverpool and Nottingham Forest.
I have no idea what any of that means.
Okay.
I'm not a football person.
No problem. Just Google it later. You'll be fine.
Sure. So apparently, due to the overcrowding at the game, poor crowd control, there was a human crush that occurred in the 2 standing-only central pens, which resulted in the deaths of 96 people and injuries to hundreds more.
Yeah, so what happened was, as the match began, the fans were still trying to enter into the stadium, right? And to alleviate the congestion of all the people trying to get in, they just opened up the exits so people could come in through the exits.
Okay.
But what they did is that just caused like a massive influx of people into the little cages that you stand in that were already overcrowded. So
I see.
So people were being pressed in against the metal fences, and people were falling over and getting trampled, and a lot of people were unable to escape those that ordeal. But some people were able to escape, obviously.
Right. Sounds horrible.
It was horrible.
So let's imagine the story of somebody who was there.
All right, yeah, let's do that.
Growing up in Liverpool, football was my life. It was the lifeblood of our city, and it defined the dreams of thousands of young lads like me. I lived for those Saturdays when I joined the throngs of supporters clad in our red jerseys, making our way to Anfield to cheer on our beloved team. When the chance came to attend the FA Cup semi-final match between Liverpool and Nottingham Forest at Hillsborough Stadium in Sheffield, I couldn't believe my luck. Little did I know that the day I had been so eagerly awaiting would become the darkest day of my life. As we approached the stadium, the excitement was palpable. Thousands of fellow supporters filled the air with their chants and songs, their spirits high in anticipation of the match. But as we drew closer, I could sense something was amiss. The crowd outside the stadium was growing larger and more restless, and an undercurrent of anxiety began to bubble beneath the surface. When the police made the decision to open the exit gates to alleviate congestion, we surged forward, propelled by the force of the mass of people behind us. As we entered the already overcrowded pens, I felt a growing unease, a nagging sense of dread that would soon become all too real. The match began, and the roar of the crowd was deafening. But as the minutes ticked by, the jubilation turned to terror. The pressure from the crowd behind us was relentless, pushing us inexorably forward until we were pressed against the cold metal fences that separated us from the pitch. I could barely breathe, the weight of the bodies around me crushing the air from my lungs. The panic was contagious, spreading like wildfire as the reality of our situation became clear. People were screaming, crying, and clawing at the fences in a desperate attempt to escape the suffocating crush. The match had become an afterthought, a distant memory as our world shrank to the space between the fences and the mass of people pressing in on us. As the minutes turned into what felt like hours, my body grew weak, my vision blurred, and I felt the icy grip of death closing in. I thought of my family, their faces, a beacon of light in the darkness that threatened to consume me. and in that moment of despair I found a strength I didn't know I possessed. With every ounce of my being, I fought to stay alive, to keep my head above the sea of bodies that threatened to swallow me whole. Miraculously, a gap appeared in the fence, a small window of opportunity that offered a chance at survival. With the help of fellow supporters, I managed to pull myself through the gap and onto the pitch. Gasping for breath, I looked back at the pens, the horror of what I had just experienced etched indelibly in my mind. In the wake of the Hillsborough disaster, our city was forever changed. The tragedy left an indelible mark on the hearts of all those who lived through it, a somber reminder of the fragility of life and the strength of the human spirit. Through the darkness, we found hope and resilience united in our grief and our determination to ensure that those who were lost would never be forgotten.
All right, well, the chances of being involved in a similar accident, I think, are pretty low.
I think so too. I mean, there's accidents like this every year, but there's millions of people who go to sporting events or concerts or festivals, and they don't experience these types of situations.
Right. And being trampled in like general
Right.
is relatively low. So even if
Right.
you're at a sporting event and you're in one of these big crowds, you're more than likely going to get crushed
As opposed to
and
trampled.
being trampled,
Yeah.
right? So, there's some ways you can try to avoid these things.
Right.
Our standard safety tips: be aware of your surroundings, situational awareness.
Yep. Know where your exits are.
Yep, know where your exits are. Stay away from congested areas. Try not to drink too much.
Just about to say that.
Yep.
Yeah.
All
And
the same stuff, right?
that's about it.
All right, well, let's get into our second historical event, the Station Nightclub fire.
So the Station Nightclub fire took place on February 20th, 2003 at the West Warwick, Rhode Island. That's awful, I can't read. At the Station Nightclub in West Warwick, Rhode Island.
That's true. It was a
Yes.
concert. There was a band, The Great White. I think it's called The Great
Yes. They have a couple good songs.
Yeah.
So they had a pyrotechnic show at the concert, and what happened was the stage had a bunch of sound insulating foam on top of it, and the pyrotechnics went off. The foam, because foam is very flammable, caught fire. The flames spread extremely quickly, something like 90 seconds for the whole place to be
White.
engulfed
And
in flames.
that caused everyone to rush to the exits,
Yes.
which there weren't enough of.
Yes, and people were obviously having issues with the smoke. Once you start inhaling
Oh,
smoke,
yeah.
you get a little bit disoriented.
And you get like, adrenaline boost. I'm going to
Yeah.
die.
Right.
So you
start coughing,
trampling
you
over
fall
people.
over,
Yeah,
people that
yeah.
behind you are starting to push, and you get trampled. So just an absolutely horrible recipe of different events put together in one little place.
Yeah, let me read off my sheet. So patrons began to panic, and in the chaos, they were trampled as the crowd pushed towards the exits. Towards the exits. Am I speaking towards?
Yeah,
Towards.
I think that's
Yeah.
right.
The main entrance quickly became overcrowded, and many victims were crushed or trampled in the bottleneck.
Yes.
Yeah. So that fire moved fast. People were coughing and choking and falling over, and other people were just running them over. And 100 people died.
Yes. I don't think everybody who died was a result of trampling. A lot of people
No,
also
of course,
suffocated,
Smoke inhalation, like that. But there
other
were people
injuries.
that were trampled.
But
yeah,
there were some people, I believe, who were trampled, and
for
somewhere
sure.
in my stack of research, I have that data. I don't remember off
If
the
there
top of my
was
head,
no one that was trampled, then I'm off subject.
which you usually are.
I'm off topic again.
It's okay. We'll replace you with ChatGPT soon anyway.
All right, so let's just imagine the story of
Somebody
that
who was there.
as it says on our paper.
The moment we stepped into the Station Nightclub, you could feel the anticipation in the air. The concert was sold out and everyone was super excited. I'd been waiting for this night for weeks, stoked to see Great White play live. The place was buzzing with energy as fans filled the venue talking loudly and enjoying their drinks. When the band hit the stage, the room's energy went through the roof. The first notes of their opening song sent the crowd wild, and I couldn't help but get caught up in the excitement. Suddenly the pyrotechnics went off, sending sparks flying. It looked amazing, but in just a few moments everything went terribly wrong. I stared in shock as the sparks caught the sound insulation foam on the walls on fire. The fire spread super fast, covering the ceiling and filling the room with flames in no time. Panic took over as the fire alarm screamed and everyone tried to find a way out. The smoke got thicker and the heat got worse, making it almost impossible to see anything. The terrified screams of the people trapped inside mixed with the constant crackling of the flames. Feeling desperate, I pushed through the panicked crowd, trying to find a way out. Each breath I took felt like it was burning my lungs, and the harsh smoke made it feel like I was suffocating. The exit seemed so far away, and I started to think I wasn't going to make it out alive. But then through the smoke and chaos, I saw a tiny bit of hope. A small opening in the side of the building. I used every bit of strength I had left to get to it, gasping for air as I fell out into the cold night. Lying on the ground, coughing, and with my heart racing, the reality of what just happened hit me. The station nightclub was a blazing inferno, and thinking about the people still trapped inside was unbearable. As a survivor, I'll never forget that night.
Okay, well, that was an interesting story.
Yes, it was, John.
Let's get into a couple of basic stats.
Okay.
The likelihood of something like this happening now is relatively low. They have like a lot of new regulations in place.
Yes.
Fire marshals will come in and they'll make sure that you're not over the limit for people in the building.
Right.
Things like that.
Now, I recall reading, I don't know exactly if it's a state or if it's a federal law or some change in coding.
Redesign of the
But
doors or something.
yes, doors have to be redesigned so the exits open out, but also all venues that are over, I believe, 100 people now are required to have sprinklers installed,
Right.
which may have made a difference in this case.
Yeah. I think that during that time period, actually, there was a lot of states were implementing. Public buildings had to have some type of fire protection.
Right.
No matter what, really.
Yeah, no matter what.
It's good. So let's see.
Never hurts to have extra protection.
Yeah. So the chances of some pyrotechnics
Yeah.
exploding and catching crap on fire now are much lower, I think, than they were in 2003.
Indoors, yes, I think so. I think eventually
yeah.
we'll do an episode on pyrotechnics in general, just fireworks and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Which do kill people every year.
So in this circumstance, I think it's, okay, a fire panicked a crowd that caused people to rush for exits.
Right.
They were inhaling smoke.
Mm-hmm.
Some people were collapsing.
Mm-hmm.
And then they would get trampled.
Right.
So let's just say the chances of that actually happening to you are almost zero. Like that exact
realistically, pretty
situation.
close to zero.
Yeah. So let's give a few tips.
Sure.
All right. So as usual,
we're just gonna print these out and put them behind us eventually.
Be aware of your surroundings.
Be aware of your surroundings.
Situational awareness.
Know where your exits are. Oh.
Yeah, know the layout. Know where your exits are. Right.
Yeah.
Identify crowded areas and stay away from them.
Yes.
Don't drink too much.
And if you're an introvert, you're probably going to be safe from these.
Yes. And try to remain calm. Panicking can cause a lot of stress that stops you from making good decisions.
And the more panicked you are, the faster you breathe. Actually, in this situation, the more likely you are to inhale smoke, which would make things worse for you.
And in a fire situation, you want to get low to the floor, crawl out.
Right. Well,
if you can.
If you're
not being
trampled on,
crowded by people, right? So.
And I think what's one last safety tip? Probably, if you do go out, try to have somebody with you in the group who is responsible and sober. If there is an event that happens, they'll probably be able to help you. If you can't walk and you can't stand because you're so drunk, then you probably will be suffering a lot more than if you're sober.
Don't drink too much at one of these types of events that are really crowded.
Yeah. It's cheaper too.
Right.
Pre-game.
Yep.
Just don't drink and drive. All right. Should we go into some general thoughts about trampling?
I think we need to cut.
I think we should probably cut too.
I'm just waiting for Will. I stopped talking like 5 minutes ago.
I'm still talking. I just talk because I'm bored.
Will, save me.
We've been here for like 6 hours recording this. I need to eat something.
Seriously, we gotta move on. This episode's getting long. Okay, well. Ooh, it's a stink bug.
Oh, it's one of
And
those.
it knows I'm looking at it. Death by stink bug.
I mean, has a stink bug ever killed anybody?
Maybe.
I just saw an article today about somebody who died biking while swallowing a bee.
Look, I look over, it stops moving. I look away, moving. Now it's not moving. Now it's moving. Now it's not moving.
Hey, Will, do you want to put the stink bug on camera?
No, don't do that.
We could film our first live execution on the show.
Just...
That's not going to solve anything.
That's away from me, so I can't get in my mouth.
I think the odds of that are pretty low.
Don't know where it went. Okay, so let's talk about some more information on trampling.
So how common do you think trampling is?
Not very common.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And from most of the research I could find, incidents that involve crowds, such as the station nightclub fire that we talked about, and the first example with the Hillsborough.
I mean, let's think for a second. In
Coming
order
off mid-sentence
for
there, it's okay.
it's all right. Listen.
Doesn't matter.
If
I had nothing going anyway.
if you're gonna get trampled, it takes a lot of planning. I mean, it took Scar
Planning.
months to come up with the plan to get Mufasa into that ravine,
Right. Yeah,
so that
it's
he
hard
would be
work.
trampled. I mean, that's a lot of.
You need
work.
a lot of wildebeest. You know,
And
you gotta
then,
like hire them,
Look
and
how
not cheap.
believable! Everybody believed it. Oh, he
Right.
was just trampled to death, like it happens every day.
He just fell off a cliff.
He's a lion.
Yeah.
He's not gonna fall into a bunch of.
So you would say Scar was a lion?
Scar was a lion, yeah. Mufasa as
He was
well.
lion.
He was
Every time
lion.
he'd open his mouth, he was a lion.
lion,
Every
yeah,
time he said
yes.
something, he was a lion.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay, I thought so. Didn't look
So-
very reputable.
Anyways, it's rare unless you're dealing with Scar. Then it's not so rare.
Yeah, well, if you do want to think about the difference between crowd crushing and trampling, just remember the Lion King,
Hakuna Matata.
Hakuna Matata. What does that have to do with anything?
I don't know.
I think you're better off when you actually read the script.
Whatever. Let's
Whatever,
go.
who cares? So, I think from my research, I think it's more likely that you'd be trampled by an animal than by a person.
Right.
And we didn't talk about any examples where a human was trampled by an animal.
Probably elephants, right?
I did see numbers that said about 500 people a year worldwide are trampled by elephants.
Wow.
Yeah, not many in the U.S. Apparently, I saw it was 0.25 on average
What
per
about,
year.
what
Not
about
zero.
Zebras.
Zebras. I don't think
They in
that's a
there?
very black and white story, so I couldn't find that one.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
There's some gray numbers.
some gray area in there. Yeah.
Okay.
I think based on what I saw, the most likely animal you'd be trampled by would be either a cow or a horse or any kind of livestock animal.
Sheep,
I don't know.
goats.
Goats, maybe. I don't know if you.
What are those animals that if they follow each other and lemmings? They go over the cliff.
Yes, lemmings.
Is that
And
real? Like people
so I've read that the story about lemmings was actually fake and manufactured for a documentary that Disney put out in the 60s, and they were actually dead, and they filmed them falling off the cliff. And then,
There goes Disney as a sponsor. Thanks.
yeah,
They're
I'm
never
sure they were
picking
going to
up the
sponsor us
show.
anyway.
They're never picking up our show now.
Oh no! Haha!
I apologize, Mickey.
Well, now we can get some traction because we'll get sued by Disney.
We don't have anything. Don't see.
Yeah, we don't have any money. We spend all $7 on this microphone.
Microphone's a little bit.
Sorry,
less than
$8.
$7. I don't know. Whatever. All right. What else we got?
It doesn't work very well because we're not interesting. I blame the microphone for that.
We had more viewers than it would matter.
I think you spent more money for the microphone than we have viewers.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we have one or two. I know maybe my mom.
Maybe.
Do you have any friends?
No,
that watch?
I have no friends
I know
whatsoever.
you're keeping this from your mom. You told us right
Yeah, I don't think she would really appreciate me talking about this.
now. All right.
So if you want to blackmail me, that'd probably be a good way. But again, I don't have much. I put
What
my
else
life
is,
savings
so
in this.
other than animals and people, can you be trampled by other things?
I don't think so. I mean, I was trying to come at this from the point of view of what does the word trampled
Yeah,
mean?
what is
No.
the definition of trampling?
All right,
have
so
that?
in Middle Low German,
Okay.
tramp meant to be stepped on
I
or
thought
to
tramp.
walk.
Tramp?
Oh, a tramp. Well, interestingly enough, of course, where does tramp stamp come from? Also tramp. So obviously, a tramp was a person who would walk around a lot.
Oh, yeah.
So like Charlie Chaplin was the tramp because he had no home or was always around doing things. So eventually,
They call them tramps in England, right?
yeah,
Instead of
tramps
bums.
are bombs,
We call 'em
vagabond.
bums. They call them tramps.
I had to look that word up because I'm like,
What,
is that
vagabond?
is that like James Bond's older brother or something?
Vagabond?
Vagabond.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I knew what that was, but
I know you did.
so they also have tramp steamers, which is I don't know if you ever heard that before. If you watch like some old movies, like, oh, we're going to take the tramp steamer onto Oxfordshire this month or something like that.
What is that?
Just a steamer, a boat that has no itinerary would be
What's
called
a
it.
boat?
What's a boat?
No, no, no.
The thing
you
in your
said-
driveway that
Oh,
costs
it's
you a
a
lot
boat.
of money.
I thought you said, oh, it's a boat.
Yeah, tramp steamer is a boat.
Okay.
Yeah, a boat.
All right.
It's a steamship, steamer, not to be confused with other types of steamers, like I don't know, clothing steamer,
Carpet cleaner.
carpet cleaner,
Okay, gotcha.
Stanley steamer. If they want to be a sponsor.
Yeah, that'd be
Are
awesome.
they still around?
Stanley Steamer.
You could probably use them because your carpets are a little
Yeah.
dirty. Apparently, there's Chinese bugs, the stink bugs or whatever, the
Whatever.
invasive bugs here,
Yeah, yeah.
crawling all over us. Do an episode if they killed anybody.
Almost killed me today.
Yeah. All right. So I think just based on that definition, trampling being stepped on by an animal or person, it makes it pretty rare because
Maybe in the future, robots could trample you.
I think again,
If they had a biped
Yeah, you would
robot,
need like a fake leg or something like that.
or like bipedal, like the Tesla bot has.
Yeah, it all
legs.
depends on how literally you want to take the definition of trampling. Because could you get trampled by a car? I mean, that's probably the most way people get trampled by something, but it has wheels. If you put legs on a car,
That's why I was asking the definition for trample.
I mean, maybe we could look into seeing what the most unlikely animal that could trample a person is. I mean, have there been any cases where a mouse has trampled a person? Or
I don't know.
a dog? I'm sure dogs
I
probably
hear
could.
Australia has like at certain times of the year like massive like mice that trample through the big stampedes.
Will they actually kill you? Because they're
I
all
don't
pretty
know.
light.
I have no idea. I have to look into that.
I can
Any
visualize.
Australians that are watching? Yeah, I know there aren't any.
We don't even have any Americans watching, and they
I
speak
know,
English.
I know, but
I'm
that's
just
all
kidding.
right.
I
still
know
have to
Australians.
ask. If you're Australian and you're watching this show,
Yeah.
leave us a message and let us know if anyone in Australia.
And-
If there first is this story I'm telling where at certain times of the year, maybe every 7 years or something, mice trample through everything. Is that even true? And if so, has anyone ever been killed by these mice, trampled to death by them?
If you had to
No.
pick an animal to be trampled by, what would it be?
I don't know, not mice, because I would just get some cats out there.
You hate cats.
The cats and mice could fight it out in a battle like Tom
I think
and
you're
Jerry.
thinking this through too much.
Probably.
Yeah.
We got any other information about being trampled or?
Well, let's look through our research for the show notes that I didn't
we got
actually
a lot of
read.
research. Look at all that.
Yeah, but to be fair, I just copy and pasted most of this from the internet, so who knows if it's actually good.
We don't have any researchers other than ChatGPT, and we can't.
We
always
can't trust them after that last episode.
Yeah, I know.
Maybe one day they'll be the ones trampling us. No, I do have some research here. So, again, it talks a lot about how if you're in a situation with a crowd, the most likely way you get injured to killed or severe injuries, let's say, would be from crushing. You get asphyxiated that way from the pressure of people pushing against you. A lot of people will overheat.
Yeah, crushing.
So you can get severe dehydration, collapse just from a small heat stroke. People who are elderly can have heart conditions, get a heart attack.
Right.
Some of those may lead to people falling down and being trampled on, but I think
True.
just thinking about this some more and based on what I read, that many people in such a small space implies that there's not a room for movement. So it'd be really hard for me to kick somebody if I can't even move my feet.
Yeah, true.
So in most of these situations where there are actually people being trampled, it involves people falling down and people running or moving over that area. So the example that we used for our first episode of Jim Tai, who the Walmart incident, I believe that's how we pronounced it.
Is that how you said it?
I don't remember. That was like 2 weeks ago, and I'm sorry, I forgot. But
Oh yeah. I remember
that was probably
hearing
more of
you
a
say
trampling.
Jim Tai and me thinking that's a weird name. Was he
I'm-
Japanese or
No,
what was it?
I don't know.
I thought he was Japanese. Is he a Buddhist?
No, that was the one with the
Oh,
lawnmower.
that was the lawnmower. Jim Tai was the Walmart.
Yes,
I remember. Yeah. He was saving the pregnant woman. Or
Yes.
trying to.
trying to save a pregnant woman, and he ended up getting trampled.
Crushed, right?
Trampled in that one, I
Was
think.
he trampled? I
Yeah,
thought that was our crushed episode.
yeah. I think I might have made a flub there, and I think
It's so easy to mix
There's-
the two up.
people mix them up. I mean, again, it's just semantics,
If you don't
really.
know what we're
Trampled,
talking about,
crushed.
go back and watch. I think episode 1 was the Walmart.
Yeah, and then we can have 2 viewers instead of 1.
Well, we can have more, like 3 views.
3
on
views.
it,
Wow.
On that episode, that'd be sweet.
Do we get paid by the view? How does that work?
We don't,
Oh man,
we don't have any kind of marketing affiliation or
not yet.
nothing yet. So,
Don't worry, we're not in the works for anything either, because nobody cares.
all right. Well, I think there you have it. About everything you need to know about trampling, unless you got anything else.
Did find an example that would be interesting to talk about on a
Let's
different
hear it.
episode.
No, let's hear what that example is, and then we'll.
No, it's boring.
All right. All right.
Or
if
is
it's
it?
boring?
No, it's not.
I guess we'll listen to it in the next episode.
We'll listen to it in a
another
future
episode.
episode.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So there you have it. Everything you might need to want to know about trampling. And do you think either of our stories today, or our historical events today, do you think? Well, the stories are always made up, but the historical events aren't. So, do you think either of our historical events today were fake? And if so, go ahead and leave us a message with which one you think it is. And in our next episode, we'll let you know if you're right or wrong.
Yep. And as always, stay
And
safe
remember,
out there.
stay safe out there.
I beat you to it.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
As always, we win no prize.